So, I've got an album out there called Bill. What has that got to do with space? But it starts there. So, a gentleman who became over many years a friend of mine. He was just a guy. He's got an important job, but the job is like an executive. And so every time I live in Los Angeles, and he lives in New York. Every time he came to Los Angeles, we would meet at a Chinese restaurant and have duck. So we would do that. Over the years, we became very good friends over Chinese duck. And we would spend 2-3 hours at a meal and talk about, there was a difference in our age. He was much older than I. No. Nobody is older than me. He was much younger than me. But it was like, he became a really good friend over a meal. And for years went by. One day, he invited a friend of his. And so the friend came to dinner. It was like an intrusion. But this friend was a musician who had been a musician with my friend Rob. Dan was a musician. Dan Miller of They Might Be Giants. Does that mean anything? So Dan Miller comes to dinner with the duck. And I'm sort of like, why am I sharing my duck with Dan Miller when this is my moment with Rob? So Dan is a friend of Rob's as well, especially at Rob's university many years earlier, where he and Rob did music together. Rob, you did music. I didn't know. So during the meal, Dan says to Rob and me, we should do an album, which begat Bill. Now, on a Sunday evening prior to me going on Monday to the desert to now go up into space on like Wednesday, Rob and Dan and I are having a meal, and we say, I'm going up into space. We should write a song about going up into space. So we start making notes what does it be like to go into space. When I came down, when I had been up there, one of the first phone calls I made to Dan and Rob was, everything we wrote so much earlier has nothing to do with what my experience was. We got to start the song again because what I went through was apparently different from a lot of other people. So I left Rob and Dan at that table in New York, and Monday morning I went to Texas. I forgot the name of the city we landed up. Anyway, ended up in the desert of Texas, where Jeff Bezos earns a lot of property, and had his rocket ship and all the equipment that goes with it on his land. It's a huge piece of land in Texas. So I'm there a day early. Like, I'm there Monday morning, and everybody's coming Tuesday. And I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing here early? Why am I here? So they never gave me an answer, but about mid-morning, they said, why don't we drive out 10, 15 miles and show you the gantry that you have to go up to get into the spaceship. Oh, no, okay, we'll go see a gantry. But why am I here? So we go up. Now, this land is about 4,000 something feet high, like almost the height of Denver, which if you've been to Denver, you get kind of breathless just getting off the airplane, 5,000 feet. So the guy said, well, let's go up the gantry. It's 11 flights up. Good Lord. So I get up 3 flights of flight and I'm sucking in air, and I pretend I'm not. Look at the beautiful desert. And then I get up another 3 flights and another. Finally, I'm at the top. I go, I got 11. And as I lean over the thing, I'm looking at a cement room. I can tell it's a cement room because the door this latch, this, whatever you call it, space door, which is 12 inches thick, is slightly ajar, and there's a room about the size of this stage, and you can see it's 12 inches thick of cement. And looking in, when I can see inside there, tubes and things and all kinds of electronic devices. And what's that? They said, well, if something goes wrong, that's the room you run into. So, what are you talking about? What could go wrong? Oh, no, nothing's going to go wrong. So I'm at the top of the gantry a day early, and I'm thinking, why am I here? And we get down, and it's like about dinner time when my slow mind realizes, what am I doing here? They've checked me out to see if I can get up those 11 flights of stairs. I couldn't believe it. Well, you know, I mean, imagine being my age, and I'm not even going to go there again, and going up 11, almost 12 flights of stairs at 5,000 feet. Imagine if you get up, how embarrassing would it be to get to like 5 flights and go, I can't get up any further. Oh, geez, we've made a mistake inviting Shatner to go up in his bed. Okay, so the next 2-3 days is spent rehearsing, practicing one thing in particular. They had a real model of the spaceship that we were going to go into. And we practiced again and again. They had sound effects, like some of the sounds that we would hear, the bumps and groans and things like that. But mostly we practiced getting into a chair that was like prostrate like that, getting into the 5-point harness. I've got a bottle of water here and I can't drink it. So the 5-point harness, of which I've been in many 5-point harnesses before. I used to drive fast cars, and you get into shoulder, waist, and the crotch strap, which is the most important, because if you're stopping suddenly, you're going to go forward, and the real thing that stops you is this crotch strap. But if you've ever tried, so you got a little notch, and you put a notch in the circular thing, notch here, and then the crotch strap. But I'm lying like this, and getting that crotch strap in, you can recognize how difficult it was. So we rehearsed that, and we rehearsed getting into the seat in weightlessness. Now, archaeologists, see how many subjects there are here. What in heaven's name does archaeology have to do with going to space? I will tell you, because you asked. You wanted the long version? This is the long version. When I finish this story, I'm going on stage, okay? So archaeologists, both physical, the ones who dig up bones and things like that, but also archaeology can be done in language. People who study language discover when words were entered into that language, and they realize that's when that happened. For example, in the Proto-European language, which came from the steppes of Turkey and Russia and Mongolia, when those guys swept down into Europe, periodically, Genghis Khan and those guys, every 400 or 500 years, they'd sweep down and rape and pillage, and they left their language behind. And all our languages, English, 40 languages of Europe are based on this Proto-European language, which is mostly, I guess, Mongolian. What they discovered was the word for horse came into that language about 10,000 years ago. So they figured that horses came in to civilization about 10,000 years ago. And then the archaeologists who are digging things up discovered that that was true, that 10,000 years ago, the horse was introduced into civilization. There are no words yet for weightlessness in the English language, because only 600 people have been up there enough to be weightless. So they can't describe weightless. Oh, oh yeah, your hand goes up. But that doesn't, you feel sick. You're Jeff Bezos. Yes, the richest, one of the richest men in the world. A wonderful guy, by the way. I've met him, had several conversations with him. Wonderful guy. So he went up first. Let me go back to that. So a friend of mine who is a producer said to me one day, I'm going to remember the strings of this story here. Said to me, why don't we go up to Seattle and talk to the Blue Origin people, Amazon, and you go up in the spaceship first because they're going to send them. I don't want to go up now. I want to go up in a spaceship. I'm so comfortable at home. Why? All I want to do is go after sharks. Go visit. I don't know whether any of you saw rebroadcasts of the Shark Week. No, I'm not going to go into the water and be bitten by an 18-foot tiger shark. I don't want to go up in no, Bill, no, all right, let's go up and talk. So, a year and a half ago, 2 years, I guess now, we went up, we could have called them and said, oh, good idea, come up to Seattle where the Amazon headquarters are. They would go up there and meet Mr. Bezos, and we sit around and talk. They said, oh, it's a good idea, Captain Kirk goes up into space. Okay. So we come home, and COVID hits, a year goes by, and they announce the first voyage of the Blue Origin is going to go up, and it's going to be Jeff Bezos, his brother, a lady astronaut who didn't go up, and a kid. And I said to my friend, whose name I'll think of in a second, see, I told you, I don't want to go. And they go up, and I later see footage of Bezos, okay? Bezos is weightless, floating on his stomach. And the camera, of which there are several inside the spaceship, is shooting his back, which is his feet splayed out. So we see his little crack. And the kid, the youngster who was invited to go, is throwing Skittles at his ass. And that's how they dealt with weightlessness in that magical moment. And I'm thinking, God, if I went up there, I wouldn't be throwing Skittles. Donuts, maybe, but no, I wouldn't be wasting I thought, I wouldn't be wasting my time on that nonsense and floating around and saying, oh, look at that, we're weightless. I want to see what's happening, but I'm not going to go up because he says, well, what about seconds, says my friend, whose name I'll think of in a second. What about second? They're going to go again, and they're going, no, you didn't go second. That's like getting the vice president when you expected the president. I'm not going to go up there. So they said, so basically goes up, comes down, and then a couple months later, they invite me to go up. And I say to Jeff, no. So I said, no, I'm not going to go second, no. Now I'm lying in bed, and I don't know about you guys, but I get my best thoughts like just before getting up in the morning. I'm lying in bed, getting ready to get up, and I have creative things. Oh yeah, I should do that, I should do that. And I'm thinking, why am I not going with the opportunity, the thrill of going into space? Why don't I do that? I call Jason. So I called Jason and I said, I'll take my, I'll go up. It'll go up. Now I'm in the desert, getting ready to go. And we're rehearsing all this weightless thing. So, weightlessness, you're floating and you gotta get into the chair. And it's a 5-point harness. So here's how we rehearse. You grab that and you put that on and you get towards your chair. There's a ledge right there, so you stick your feet in there. So you hold yourself down. Now you get that one, then you get this one, you get that one, and then you attempt to get the crotch connector. And you're lying like this. After weightlessness. All you have to do with the 5-point harness is do that. Everything falls away. And getting out is no problem. Getting back in is the problem. So we rehearse that for 2-3 days, and that's essentially it. Now we go up the gantry. It's the day of the of the takeoff. We got the gantry, and there is the rocket ship, and you know, stuff is coming. You know what that stuff is? Hydrogen. Hydrogen is coming out, a little excess hydrogen. And I'm looking at it thinking, that's hydrogen. Have you all seen the documentaries, the footage on the Hindenburg? Oh, humanity! The guy's been, and little fingers are running away from the blazing Zeppelin. And, you all know that? Well, I've seen it several times, and I'm marveling at how tiny the figures are running away, and the thing looks like it's falling on everybody. 35, 40 people died, I think. But the incredible inferno of that blazing, lighter-than-air airship. And I'm thinking, that's hydrogen down there. Now, I'm up the top of the gantry, and the cement room is staring at me, and I'm thinking, the Hubble telescope. Have you any idea what I'm going to do with the Hubble telescope? The Hubble telescope was a 4 billion, 20, 30 years ago, $4 billion thing to enlarge mankind's knowledge of space. And they had England, Canada, and the United States working on the Hubble telescope. They put it all together, they put it up in the air, and then they went to look at it, and it was blurred. And everybody, why is it blurred? Why? And somebody said, the English used imperial measurements, and the Americans used whatever we call ours, and they never talked to each other. So it doesn't fit because there's a difference in millimeter and inches, and they never talk to each other. So the $4 billion telescope to enlarge mankind's knowledge doesn't work because they never communicated. It's called human error. They had to send astronauts back up there to adjust this thing. Human error. Yeah, human error. And then I remember the footage, the tragic footage of the O-ring. Do you remember the O-ring thing? So the O-ring thing was, there's a rubber gasket around the first and second stage of the rocket ship, in which was 14 people in it or something like that. And engineers from whoever it's on the tip of my mind who made the gasket knew that at 32 degrees, like almost freezing, that rubber gasket doesn't work very well. And it was 32 degrees, not 33 and not 31, but it was right on the edge, the border of it not working. And I remember reading all those years ago that there was a heated discussion with the engineers as to whether they should delay the launch or go for it. And they had a schedule to meet, and they decided to go for it, being pushed a little by the schedule. Up it went, it exploded, and all those people tragically died. Human error. And I'm in the spaceship with hydrogen, and I'm lying back here. And they start before they start the countdown, somebody in the loudspeaker system, said, all right, we're getting ready to pull the gantry away. And I swear to God, this is what the guy said. If anybody wants to get off, do it now. Honest to God. And I'm thinking, human error. Hydrogen. I'm going, no, wait a minute. I'm Captain Kirk. Swear to God. I can't get off, I'm Captain Kirk. For God's sake. So I stayed. And off it went. Okay? So there was like 5 G's going on. I've been in a fighter, F-16, in the back seat. and they were doing turns at 4 or 5 Gs. The pilots of those jet planes wear a suit that when they start pulling these Gs, the suit fills up with air to suppress the blood. So it's turning like that. The blood leaves the pilot's head and goes down into their feet. When it leaves the pilot's head, he faints. Many, many times, the pilots of these fast planes faint for a second, 2, 3, 4, until the turn is finished, and the blood comes back to their brain. So what they've devised many years ago is a suit of air that as those G's happen, air goes into the suit and stops the blood from going down into the feet. I didn't have that suit. So now this thing is going up, and there's a little instrument panel for everyone, the 4 of us who were on the flight. There's a little instrument panel that says how many G's. So it's like 5 G's, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know whether I can do this. And at 2 G's, 2 G's, I tried to raise my hand. Oh my God. 5 G's, it's like it's been described like an elephant sitting on your chest. And all of a sudden, you're past the carbon line, it's 50 miles up there, and you're weightless. Boom, you hit this thing, and now you're floating around. So the others are celebrating being weightless. I go for the window to look out what's out there. And so here was my impression. I'm at the window, clinging onto the window, because otherwise you float away. And I'm looking back. I don't know why I'm looking back, but I'm looking back from whence we came. And I see something I've never heard described before. I see a wake. I see like a submarine going through the water, like it leaves a wake behind it. I'm looking back there, and I see a wake of air, like the spaceship's going through the air. I see the air bubbling behind it. Never heard of that. So I'm looking like this, and then I look like that where we're going. And suddenly I'm looking at a blackness of space. The kind of blackness, the only time I've ever seen anything like that was one of those commercial caves where you go down into a cave, and then they close the door and they say, this is how black it is. When there's no ambient light, it's different from any other thing. The blackness of night isn't anything like the blackness of no light whatsoever. And that's what I saw. I didn't see constellations, I didn't see twinkling stars, there's none of that. And the sun was somewhere else. All I saw was blackness. It's so palpable. It's like mud. It's like black mud. I'm looking at this thing, and what I saw was death. And what I saw back there with that beige desert and the white clouds and the blue air was life. I saw life, I saw death. I saw death, I saw life. And that was my total impression until getting back into the seat. And we landed, and now I stepped out, and I found myself weeping, crying. What am I crying about? Why am I not? The others are shaking champagne and champagne. They've done something really good, sat there. That's what we did, it was everybody else will do. And they're shaking champagne, and I am totally immersed in something. I don't know what it is. And I go and sit down on the seat of the truck. What the heck is the matter with me? And then I realized the feeling I'm feeling is grief. Grief for our planet. I read Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. Yes? The Silent Spring. 60 years ago. I read her book and was so enthralled because the book described what we're doing, what we're killing on the earth and what might happen in the future, which is exactly what is happening today. Wildfires, storms, floods. And since in all that time, I've tried to say, hey, we should do something, and he's an actor, what is he? I mean, there was a review of me in England when I was saying, you know, the things are going to happen, and Rachel Crowe, and the reporter said, hey, this actor thinks he knows what's going on. It was scornful. What does an actor know? Well, an actor doesn't know anything, except an occasional, nobody knows anything, but an occasional article on global warming. I read it and think about it. Rachel Carlson. I was in grief for 5 billion years of evolution, bringing us all the things we see now. I sat on the balcony of the hotel this morning and looked out onto the waterway and the humidity of the air and the blue sky with all these clouds and the fractal curves of the clouds and the straight lines of the airplane passing. I just marvel at the beauty of Florida, the beauty of California, and the ability to fly, what this microphone is doing, the amplification of sound. Everything is miracle. Everything is a miracle here. It took 5 billion years to evolve this miracle. To evolve a lizard, a snake, a dog, a horse, a human being. 5 billion years, and everything's going extinct as we talk. It's going extinct. It's a tragedy. And that's what I was weeping for. And then I saw the curvature of the earth. I saw about that much. And I realized, my God, I could go like that and draw the curvature of the planet. That's how small it is. I was in Cambridge about to interview Stephen Hawking. And I'm in Cambridge, in the Cambridge Cathedral. We shot some film there, everybody had left. I'm there alone in a cathedral, sitting in whatever you call that pillar that goes up that has the stained glass windows. And somebody way over there was cleaning this magnificent organ. And every so often, in cleaning it, he would play a chord from Beethoven, da 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 da, and it would echo through the cathedral. And I was there marveling at this thing, and way up there, caught in the sunlight of a stained glass, was a little mote of dust. And I thought, wow, that's what Earth must look like in this universe. We're a mote of dust. We are a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. And we, human beings, are on that grain of sand. So how insignificant that planet is, and how even more insignificant we are. You can't express how insignificant whole galaxies can float through each other without touching. That's how big space is. 2 galaxies, 2 billions of galaxies can pass through each other and not affect each other. The Milky Way galaxy apparently was affected by something like that, so the tail end of the Milky Way is bent around, and they surmise that a galaxy had gone through and just affected a few stars with it, a few galaxies with it. That's the enormity of space, and we are on this little tiny planet around a middle-sized star, our sun. That's how insignificant we are. And that's crazy. And then another thought hit me. We're aware of how insignificant we are. We're aware with the awe of the universe. We're aware. So maybe that's what we're doing. We're in awe of the majesty of the universe. That's what we're doing here. That comforted me something. And then one more thing happened. So Bezos asked me to come to a meeting of 250 scientists who were meeting all at one place in California. So I went there and talked a little bit, saying something like I'm saying to you. And they played